Hello everyone and welcome back to the HJJJ channel. Today we're going to be flying from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to South Sudan. This airport going to be the Djibouti airport. This flight is going to take us about 2 hours to complete. We're today going to be flying with the Boeing 727-800 BBJ2. We're going to be also using the BeyondATC and ACTIVE SKY for weather. We're also going to be using the FS2 crew RSS and also the FS2 crew assistant flight crew. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the cockpit. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
All right, so battery on, ground power is on. Let's let the aircraft align. My oxygen tested 100%. Is oxygen tested 100%. I jumped onto the tablets, request data from SimBrief in the meantime, on both sides. Let's go right up to FMC. And our nav data is out of data. I'm gonna be updating later on today, but that's okay. Well, let's go ahead and turn on the iOS. I'm gonna be selecting our last position. And let's do some simple.
I'm out for the walk around.
So let's set the simple fuel, set the simple payload, and select LT. Configuration horn is tested. Lots of switches. Route uplink is ready, let's load it up. Route uplink is loading.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thanks. Thanks.
Passengers bus is coming.
Oh, but the iPad won't run out of the battery. Anyways, let's go ahead and start setting up the FMC fully. Alright, so our fuel is already set. This is going to be our planned fuel. For the reserve, we're going to be setting that for 2. So not that one, this one. Cost index for this flight, that's going to be 5. 0 fuel at 49.2. Flight level for today's flight, that's going to be 370. Cruising wind going to be at 002 at 9.
This way.
Average temperature that's going to be average temperature that's going to be plus 6 plus 4, that's going to be minus 4. 2. Transition altitude is going to be 14,000 feet. Select that, takeoff configuration. Okay, so we're gonna be, we are planning to take off from runway 07 right. Okay, flaps 5. 43 for the temperature. Takeoff configuration. Runway departure. Okay, departure. Gonna be selecting runway 07 right. Gonna be departing via Kofta 3A. Kofta 3A. Kofta 3A. This one. This one. Let's execute. Alright. Now, fixes. HAAB.
I'm back. No issues on the walk around.
We want 5 nautical miles format marker, then 10, then 15. Next fix, that's gonna be tell Juliet. Then from this one, we're gonna be wanting 5 nautical miles marker, then 10, then 15 nautical miles from it as well. Flaps, we're going to be taking off flaps 5, CG 22.0, V1 going to be 135, V1 at 138, and V2 139. Alright. So, for the MCP, V2, that's going to be 139, so we're going to set it up right here. Flight directors are on. Mine is master, is going to be slave. Auto throttle is armed. VNAV, LNAV are armed as well.
Monitor radar display.
Glide slope.
Go around. Wind shear
up.
ahead. Wind shear
Wind shear.
ahead.
Wind
Wind
shear.
shear ahead.
Wind shear. Terrain. Pull up.
Airspeed low. Airspeed low.
Sink rate. Pull up. Terrain. Pull up. Don't sink. Don't sink. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Gear. Too low. Flaps. Too low. Terrain. Glide slope.
Bank angle.
Approaching minimums. Minimums. 2,500. 1,000. 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Wind shear, wind shear, wind shear. Too low, terrain.
Okay. Let's turn off that clearance delivery.
TCAS test. Pass.
Ball delivery, Night Chase 1, radio check.
Night Chase 1, reading you loud and clear.
Hi, here's a fuel slip.
Alright, let's go ahead with the pre-flight checklist. Pre-flight checklist,
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation transfer and display switches. Normal. Auto. Windows heat. On. Pressurization mode selector. Auto. Flight instruments.
Heading 341, altimeter 1024 set.
Heading 341. Altimeter 1024. Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
Alright. Let's go ahead and request our clearance. Ball delivery, Night Chase 1, ready to copy IFR clearance.
Night Chase 1, ball delivery. Expect runway 07 right, copter tree Alpha departure. Squawk 0700.
07. Expect runway 07 right via Kofta 3A departure, transition Kofta, squawk 0700, Night Chase 1.
Night Chase 1, read back. Correct. Contact ground 121 decimal 9 when ready for push or start.
Roger. Contact ground on 121.9 when ready for push and start. Night Chase 1. Alright, so we're gonna climb it to 30,000 feet, then 16,000 feet. Right, so let's go ahead and wait. It's gonna be from 12,000 feet there. By the end of the run, we're gonna be reaching. Not by the end of the run. After takeoff, we're gonna be reaching 12,000 feet. Then climb onto Jiris to 14,000 feet. So let's set our altitude to 14,000 feet. And also let's set our radio navigation here. Okay, so we're gonna be departing from runway 07 right. Okay, so in case we're gonna be coming back, we're probably gonna be coming back to the same runway in case of emergency. So let's have those ready as well. And 115, that's amount 9 now. 115, that's amount 9 now. 115, that's amount 9 now. What the hell? Okay, on both sides, 115, that's amount 9. Alright, on both sides, 115, that's 194 Juvens VUR. And let's go ahead and front through our departure procedure. So we're going to be departing from the stand. Noise abatement is not required. This is going to be our first flight of the day. Thrust will be rated. We're currently underway, so in case we're going to need to come back, we all good. APU is not required. FTS is not required. Procedure going to be via SID. Let's go ahead and run this.
Are you ready for the departure brief?
Go ahead.
Okay, it's going to be a standard pushback and start off the stand. Taxi route will be as assigned by ATC. It will be a left seat takeoff, using rated thrust. Planning a flaps 5 takeoff. Anti-ice will be off. Above 80 knots, we will reject for fire, engine failure, loss of control, or wind shear. The crew member noticing the abnormality will clearly state the problem. I will call reject or continue. If the decision is to reject, I will close the thrust levers and disengage auto throttle. Observe or apply maximum braking, raise speed brakes, apply maximum amount of reverse thrust consistent with conditions and bring the aircraft to a complete stop on the runway, stow the speed brake, and set the parking brake, advise the cabin, this is the captain speaking, remain seated, remain seated. I will then perform any necessary memory items or checklists as appropriate. If an evacuation is required, I will initiate the evacuation checklist. In the event of an engine failure after V1, we will continue the takeoff, rotate at VR, call positive rate gear up, and cancel the master caution. There will be no other calls below 400 feet. At 400 feet, I'll call for a roll mode, then call confirm the failure. If required, we'll perform any necessary memory items, climb at V2 to V2 plus 20 to 1000 feet AFL or TOCA, whichever is higher. Retract flaps on schedule. When flaps have been retracted at or above, flaps up, maneuver speed, call for level change if VNAV is not engaged. Set max continuous thrust, and call for the appropriate emergency checklist. We are under our maximum landing weight, so we are okay to make an immediate return. The departure routing will be via the ATC assigned SID, complying with all published speeds and altitude restrictions. No noise abatement procedures required. LNAV and VNAV are armed. Flight directors are on. Mine is master, yours is slave. Navigation radios are set. The NOTAMs and the aircraft effect log have been reviewed. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
No questions.
Departure brief complete.
Alright, let's get the weather.
Seven right. Transition level 140. Advise on initial contact you have information Bravo. Bole Airport information Bravo. 0935 Zulu, wind 110 at 13, visibility 10 miles or more, scattered at 2500, temperature 26, dew point 06, QNH 1024, VFR conditions, landing and departing runway 07 right. Transition level 140. Advise on initial contact you have information Bravo. Bole Airport information Bravo. 0935 Zulu, wind 110 at 13, visibility 10 miles or more, scattered at 2500.
Okay, so let's wait just a bit. Everything already is set.
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
So,
Would you like the APU on?
Yes.
Starting the
Ladies
APU.
and gentlemen, welcome on board today. As you locate your assigned seats, please place your smaller items under the seat in front of you to provide more room for larger items in our overhead compartment. If you need assistance,
blast
contact
out of
the
here.
flight attendant. If you are unable to accommodate any item in the cabin, please bring it to the boarding door and we will check it for you. Also, review the safety instruction card in your seat pocket. If you are seated at an exit seat, also review the exit seating criteria.
Okay, let's wait on it to start the view and switch on to it. And then we're gonna be disconnected from our ground power. Okay, so the APU is available to it. Let's see when they're gonna switch on to it. Should I switch it to the APU? Let's wait for to switch on to it. Let's go to 073. This one altitude 07. And we did not switch to the anyway, I'll go to switch to it and I'll go ahead and disconnect from the ground power. Release and remove the wheel chucks.
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we clear to close?
Yes.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Before start procedure.
Stand by.
Ball ground matches 1 is ready for push and start.
Night Chase 1, ball ground, pushback approved, face east.
Pushback approved, face east, Night Chase 1.
Please direct your attention to the cabin crew for important safety information. There is an instruction card in your seat pocket that illustrates the safety equipment on this aircraft. Regulations require compliance with this information as well as all crew instructions, lighted information signs, and placards. Fasten your seatbelt by inserting
Before
the
start
message
checklist?
into the buckle.
Before start checklist. Flight deck door closed and locked. MCP.
It is our policy that you keep your seatbelt fastened at all times while
V2139,
seated.
heading
Doors are clearly marked
072,
with exit signs
altitude
and instructions for
14,000.
door operation. Each door is Hello, Captain.
Altitude
We are ready for pushback.
14,000.
Locate the
Takeoff
exit nearest
speeds.
you. The nearest exit may be behind you. In an emergency, lights will illuminate the
V1
aisle.
135,
Zerotic
Zerotic 138, V2 129.
CDU pre-flight.
Completed.
Rudder and aileron trim.
3 and 0.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Completed.
Anti-collision light on. Before start checklist complete.
Start sequences 1 then 2.
Check.
Secure your own mask before assisting others. Your seat bottom cushion may be used as a flotation device. Pull up and remove the cushion, Upon exiting the aircraft, place your arms around the cushion and hold on to the straps located on the back. This is a non-smoking flight. Smoking is not permitted in the cabin or lavatory.
Lock in gear.
Cabin lights will now be turned off. Reading light buttons are located above your seat. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, let's wait for GSX to be ready to push us back. So we want our nose to the right, tail to the left.
Release parking brakes,
Parking
please.
brakes are released.
Commencing push. All engines clear.
Start engine
Start
number 1.
at will.
Starting engine 1. Oil pressure. Starter cutout. Number 1 stable.
Start engine number 2.
Starting engine 2. Oil pressure.
Please set parking brakes.
Parking brakes are set.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Starter cutout. Number 2 stable.
Flat 5.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
Flat 5.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear, right is clear.
Flight control check complete. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Generators on. Probe heat on. Anti-ice off. Isolation valve auto. Engine start switches continuous. Recall.
Checked.
Check. Auto brake. RTO. Engine start levers.
Idle detained.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Ground equipment.
Clear.
Clear. Before taxi checklist completed.
Clear left.
Clear right.
All ground. Natchez 1 is ready to taxi. Runway 07 right.
Night Chase 1, runway 07, right taxi via Alpha 1, Bravo 1, hold short, runway 07 left.
Taxi to runway 07 right via Alpha 1, Bravo 1, hold short, runway 07 left, Natchez 1.
Flight deck. Okay, thanks. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Night Chase 1, cross runway 07 left at Bravo 1. Continue taxi via Bravo 1, Alpha.
Left. Approaching.
Taxi to runway 07 right via Bravo 1, taxi via Alpha.
Negative, cross runway 07 left at Bravo 1.
Cross runway 07 left at Bravo 1, Natchez 1. ready at runway 07 right.
Night Chase 1, Bole Tower, wind 110 at 13, runway 07 right, cleared for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, Night Chase 1.
No, Night Chase 1, cleared for takeoff, runway 07 right.
07
Cleared for
right.
takeoff, runway 07 right, Night Chase 1. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flap 5, green light.
Stabilizer
Approaching.
trim.
4.6 units.
7 right.
Before takeoff checklist completed.
Approaching. 0
Runway entry
7
position.
right.
Okay,
On runway.
cabin crew, take your seats.
0
Clear on the
7
approach.
right.
Ready to go.
Takeoff.
Thrust set. $80 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate.
V2.
Positive rate.
Climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Night Chase 1, contact Bole departure, 119er,
400
decimal 7.
119er, decimal 7, Night Chase 1.
Negative, Bole departure on 119er, decimal 7.
119er, decimal 7, Night Chase 1. Bole departure, Night Chase 1 at 9,000, climbing 14,000 with you.
Night Chase 1, Bole departure, identified, climb to flight level 190.
Climb to flight level 190, Night Chase 1. Set flight
Flaps
level
1 set.
190.
10,000. Flight level 190. Set. Happy to release the cabin?
Okay.
Okay.
Flaps 1.
Portable electronic devices
Speed
may
check.
not be used, with the exception of TVs, radios, two-way transmitters, or any other devices that transmit.
Flaps 1 set.
These
Speed
devices
check.
may interfere with the aircraft's communication and navigation systems.
Autopilot on. Flaps up. Set.
After takeoff checklist.
Stand by.
Takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist. Engine bleeds. On. Packs. Auto. Landing gear. Up and off. Flaps. Up. No lights. After takeoff checklist complete. Happy to release the cabin crew.
Okay.
Okay.
Transition set standard. Transition set standard.
Standard set. Passing flight level 146. Now.
Night Chase 1, contact Addis Ababa radar 125.1.
125.1, Night Chase 1. Addis Ababa radar, Night Chase 1 is at 18,000 climbing, 19,000 with you.
1,000 to level. Flight level 272. Set.
Night Chase 1, Addis Ababa radar. Good day identified. Climb to flight level 380.
Cross to flight level 380, Night Chase 1. Set flight level 380.
Flight level 380. Set. 1000 to level.
Night Chase 1. Contact Khartoum Center 12 for decimal 7.
124.7, Night Chase 1. Khartoum Center, Night Chase 1 is at flight level 270 with you.
Night Chase 1, Khartoum Center, radar contact.
Are you ready for the approach brief?
Okay.
The arrival routing will be via ATC vectors. For an ILS approach, planning a flaps 30 landing. Final approach fixed altitude is 3,100 feet. Decision height is 200 feet. Missed approach altitude is 4,800 feet. Taxi route in will be as assigned by ATC. We'll be arriving at a gate. Descent speeds and navigation radios are set. Airport NOTAMs have been reviewed. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
No questions.
Approach brief complete.
Descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Pressurization. Landing altitude is 1,500 feet. Recall. Check. Auto brake. Level 3. Landing data.
VRAF 139, minimums 200 feet.
VREF 139. Minimums 200 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist completed. Check.
Khartoum Center, Night Chase 1 is ready for descent.
Night Chase 1, Tapos 1 Alpha, runway 13, descend to flight level 270.
Taco 1A, runway 13, descend to flight level 270, Night Chase 1. Set flight level 270.
Flight level 270. Set. the level. Check. Check.
Night Chase 1, descend to flight level 200.
Descend to flight level 200, Night Chase 1.
Night Chase 1, descend to flight level 120.
Descend to flight level 120, Night Chase 1. Set flight level 120.
Flight level 120. Set.
Night Chase 1, contact Juba, approach 123.9er.
123.9 and HS1. Juba approach HS1 with you at 12,000.
Chase 1 Juba approach, good day QNH, expect the RNAV runway 13 with the J507 transition.
Expect RNAV 13 with the J507 transition QNH.
Chase 1, descend to 5,000 feet.
Descend to 5,000 feet, Night Chase 1.
Night Chase 1, cleared direct JG507, cross JG507 at or above 5,000 feet. Cleared RNAV, runway 13.
Descend to flight level 15,000, cleared RNAV 13.
Negative, cross JJ507 at or above 5,000 feet.
Cross JJ507 at 5,000 feet. Checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
1015 set.
1013 set. Approach checklist completed. Speed check. check.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 15.
2500.
Speed check.
Flaps 30.
Check speed.
Flaps 30.
Check speed.
Flaps 20.
Check speed.
Flaps 30.
Check speed.
Flaps 30.
Check speed.
Flaps 30.
Airspeed
Check
low.
speed.
Airspeed low.
Flaps 30.
Night Chase 1,
Check
contact
speed.
Juba Tower 118.4.
118.4, matches 1.
Negative tower on 118.4.
118.4, matches 1. Juba Tower, matches 1 with you at 3,000 feet.
Night Chase 1, Juba Tower, runway 1, tree cleared to land.
Runway 13, clear to land, matches 1. Before landing checklist. Before landing checklist. Before landing checklist. One number, so flap 30, gear down. Okay, so just continues. Let's go ahead. That's right, once again. We'll wait up this time. Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Engine start switches.
Continuous.
Speed brake. Double check that, please. Landing gear.
Down.
Are you sure about that? Flaps.
Flat 30 green light.
Double check that, please. Landing checklist completed.
Okay, so seems to be is not knowing that he's not aware of the instrument right now. For some reason.
Chase 1, exit right, next available taxiway.
Exit right, next available taxiway in HS1. Okay to clean up. Okay to clean up.
Night Chase 1, contact ground 121.9er.
121.9er, Night Chase 1.
Check.
Cleared. Continue. Landing. Okay to clean up. Okay. The first officer is not responding, so we're gonna go ahead and close it. Let's go ahead and turn on the view.
Night Chase 1. Request taxi to allocated gate.
Night Chase 1, ramp 2, taxi at pilot's discretion.
Ramp 2 taxi at my discretion. Night Chase 1.
passenger's bus is coming.
Parking brakes release. Right. Okay, so that's it. Wait, let's see. Let's break. So it's, the landing was pretty smooth, even though the braking was it was not supposed to be that smooth, but we just not too long on this one. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you again.